Welcome back to another episode of Between Us and Y'all. I am Yasmine, and I want to thank you for joining us for another episode. Between Us and Y'all is a podcast that was created by my son and I to create a space for mothers and sons to have healthy conversations. We're grateful for all of our listeners who have joined us in listening to an episode or offering us support since we started a few months ago. We have taken a break, and we're just coming back. For those of you who are aware, my son and I took a break because his father passed away last month. And so this particular episode is going to be dedicated to Nafees and his sister and all of our listeners who have lost a parent. As I mentioned, Nafees lost his dad last month, and so you see that he's not here in this particular recording because we have taken some time to heal. I think it's very important that we do that, and so that's the only reason why he's not here in this particular episode. But I am, as a supportive parent, and I hope that you all will continue to support Nafees and his sister as well. They had a tremendous loss, not only for Nafees and Yasmine, but also for all of Omar's friends, his parents, and our community. We pray that Nafees and Yasmine have ease, and we also pray that Omar is forgiven of all of his sins and granted paradise. You're going to be seeing me looking over a little bit because I wrote some things down so that I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say for this particular episode. I think it's very important that we make space in our conversations after we experience loss of any kind, but definitely loss of a parent. That's something that's very tremendous for anyone, even if you're just checking in every day or every other week, just to make sure that you're doing well. It's good to have those people around you that will check in with you and make sure that your heart is at ease. It will help you in your healing process. And it acts as a form of therapy that we all deserve. So I hope that we all receive that type of support, and I hope that it's continuous, inshallah. So this particular episode, I've actually given it a title, and it's called 5 Before 5. And that comes from a hadith that reads, "Take benefit of 5 before 5. Your youth before your old age, your health before your sickness, and your wealth before your poverty. Your free time before you are preoccupied, and your life before your death." For our listeners who aren't familiar with hadiths, a hadith is just a collection of traditions or sayings of Prophet Muhammad, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who is the prophet that's revered in Islam. And these are accounts of his daily life, or what's known as a sunnah. So that's where that whole idea comes from. I picked this particular hadith because I thought it was something that was very important when you are experiencing loss of any kind, but definitely loss of a parent. And so I asked a few close friends and family to share with our listeners advice, including any ways their view on this hadith may or may not have changed for them in the process of healing after losing a parent. I hope these words serve as a gift towards healing, towards my son and his sister, and all of those who have experienced any type of loss. And I hope that it helps in a process towards healing, and that these words are received with love. So I'll begin with my own advice. I lost my mother to cancer at the age of 18. Her name is Saliha Sabrine Hamid. This is a picture of her for people that are watching. Can you see that? She passed away in her late 40s of cancer, and she left a large family and a large community of people who love her dearly, and obviously a daughter who loves her, dearly. And so I'm starting my particular pieces of advice with, mentioning and honoring my mother, Saliha Sabrine Hamid. Before her passing, I can say that this hadith always had an influence on my daily moves, but got a little bit more intense after she passed. I was young and getting to know what life was all about. I was only 18, as you can remember, and that's young. Even though some of our listeners might say that's not like young, you think you're an adult, but you're still kind of just starting life. So being a California native and a child of two Muslims who came into Islam through the Nation of Islam, living by a concept of what we know is eating to live, I was lucky to always be, kind of viewing eating healthy as the norm. That's something that in the Bay Area it's normal to eat healthy. Like, it's not a thing that you're kind of singled out about. So I was always raised that way, but like I say, after my mom passed, I started really paying attention to what foods caused cancer, since that was what she passed from. And so I can say over the years, paying attention to that so much definitely started having an impact on my relationship with food. Whether that caused me to gain weight or to lose weight, I might have been eating healthy, but I might have been eating a little bit too much bread or, whatever those things are. Or maybe not eating at all, but I was paying attention. I think maybe to the extent that it might be a little too much, to what foods were causing cancer as opposed to just enjoying food. And so I would say that process has had an impact on me as far as food is concerned in a way that's been a little healthy and a little unhealthy, but I'm grateful to be continuously trying my best to improve. So let me put my glasses on because I can't see that well. All right, so as I continue, after seeing my mom lose the ability to be active over the years, when she got sick, and this was a woman who had always been on the go, I had a continued commitment to do my best to stay physically active, after she passed away. So as far as that, part of the hadith that talks about, sickness before health, I felt like, being active was a way for me to actively be involved in keeping myself healthy. And so I've been, for the most part, trying to work out as much as I can, and also just being aware of how that working out impacts my health. I've been doing my best to be, on top of my game when I'm spending. So I'm staying on top of my savings and, and trying to invest money to save in the best way that I can. And I've also done my best to enjoy my money when I have it, because after seeing her pass so young, the worst thing in the world to me is to be a person that just works your whole life and you don't do anything to enjoy, the fruits of your labor. So that's been one of the things that has had an impact on me as far as money is concerned, and I've done a lot, I would say in regards to this hadith, but for the most part, I have just tried my best to be intentional about my movements, in every way that hadith, relates to. And I'm aware that none of these actions, or preparations are going to change when my time comes, because I know we all have an appointed time by God, but to be intentional about your health and your wealth and, your time honestly has felt good, and it's felt very powerful and fulfilling. So in closing, I wanted to make sure that we did something for you, Nafees and Yasmine, with this dedication, with this particular episode. You're going to hear some words from people that and so maybe a few that you don't, or that you're not familiar with, because you've probably seen them with me. And I hope that this offers you, some feelings of love and helps you on your journey of healing, after the loss of your dad. It's a thing that everybody experiences differently, and it's not something that, one video is going to help you be in a complete better space. But I hope that this can be something that you go back to and that you reference, and you feel that there was a group of people who thought of you, and wanted to make sure that that you're not alone, in your process that you're dealing with, and that we are always here for you. We have advice, we have support, and we don't know exactly what you're going through, but we can say we can relate because of being there as well. This is something that is going to be a healing journey that you will go on forever, basically. I lost my mom at 18. I'm in my early 40s now. I'm not giving my exact age, but it's a thing that I'm still healing from. And so I wanted to make sure that we took some time and made some space for you for this, because a lot of people don't do that, and they don't feel supported. They feel alone, and I wanted to make sure that you all didn't feel that way, as well as to any of our listeners who have experienced loss. We hope that this advice has been supportive and beneficial for you in the same way that we intended it to be for my son, Nafees, and his sister, and as well as all of his siblings. I pray that you feel love coming your way and that you never feel alone in your journey. So, peace.
Assalamu alaikum. I'm Joy Faison Salim. And first, I'd like to extend my heart to Nafees and Yasmine in this time and all others who are facing the reality of being young and losing a parent. It is indeed a struggle that you will grow through by God's leave. So my one piece of advice or comfort or word of wisdom that I can offer is that this 5 before 5, to live an enriching, fulfilling, empowered life. We don't know how long we have, and so the best thing we can do is strive to live a good life. So that's the best advice I can have. If anything, that a passing can remind you that this time is indeed short, so we want to make the best of what we have. I'm sure at some point a picture of my mom could be inserted here. But I wish you all the best, and I love you very much, and keep living well. Peace.
Assalamu alaikum. Yasmine and Nafees. Big Yasmine and little Yasmine. I'm Raskovi Kwayana, the son of Chaiko and Ayusi Kwayana. My mother Chaiko transitioned in 2017, and I would like to acknowledge her. This is actually a picture of her, of my mother and 2 of my brothers. My youngest sister is not in the picture, our only sister, but this is myself holding my brother who also is deceased, and his twin brother next to him. And so I also want to acknowledge Brother Omar, your Baba, who I had the honor of knowing, who I had the honor of meeting. And my lasting impression of him, just knowing him in a small way, is his openness to the brotherhood. As a man born in a society that even within conscious religious communities may teach us to be very segmented, to be very territorial, especially when it comes to children, you know. And when from the time I married his mother, Nafees' mother, and met Brother Omar, he allowed me to freely express my care and my guidance and my love for his son. And that's something that's noteworthy. I think that we can really use as a beautiful example of our humanity, because that's what our inheritance is. That's where we've come from. Regarding the 5 before 5, the pillars of that hadith are taking advantage of our youth before old age, taking advantage of our health before sickness, taking advantage of wealth before poverty, taking advantage of free time before being preoccupied, or like these days, I'm gonna say entangled, you know, but preoccupied and entangled with the workings of the world, you know, and also just taking advantage of our life in general before death. That's a beautiful question, you know, and as I meditate, as I reflect on that and relate that to the transition of a loved one, the first thing that comes to my heart and to my mind is to be detached as much as possible from the world. And that means from physical sensory objects. That does not mean not appreciate them, because we're here in the world. We're not here in the world to kind of walk around, see no evil, hear no evil, but also smell no beauty and see no beauty and all that. That's not us. We are here to enjoy this world and make the best of the world. However, the goal is to be detached from sensory objects, like the type of phone that I have in my hand. This phone, not from the spirit of communication, but from my special phone, or even from people in that physical way. Because when things happen and situations transition, as life is full of transitions, the most constant thing in life is really change. You know, when changes happen, then we'll be uprooted ourselves because we're attached to the thing instead of the essence. If we're attached to the essence, then we know Allah is infinite, and the opportunity to love and the opportunity to share, spiritual essence with the people who we love and have conversation, and remember the wisdom that they share with us, which can take us through so many situations in life. That opportunity is always there. That opportunity is infinite. That's because Allah is infinite. So if we pay attention, as we well know, to put it in another way, we are living in a world that is seen and that is created by the unseen. And so if we pay attention to the essence of things, then maybe God knows best, because only God is the disposer of affairs, but there might not even have to be a time when there is poverty. There might not have to be a time, we all will return to the earth, but there may be things, even some of those things mentioned in the hadith, the sting and the drastic measure of them, by God's grace, could even be altered. So we give thanks for the ability to share, and we pray that what we've shared makes sense. And again, much love and honor to the spirit of Brother Omar. Ameen. Ashe.
Assalamu alaikum. My name is Zarina Elamine. I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And Nafees and Yasmine, I just want to, extend my love to you all and extend my support to you all. I lost my mother, Dr. Cheryl Elamine, turn it the right way. I lost my mother, Dr. Cheryl Elamine, last year. It's been exactly almost a year now. She passed on July 8th of last year. And I learned so much. I learned so much about life, about legacy, about family. I learned so much just from her passing. And like right now I'm coming from the dentist, so you could probably tell I'm like talking a little bit funny. But it goes in line with this whole idea of 5 before 5, right? And taking advantage of those 5 things before you lose them. And so like one of the things that I really recognized that we didn't do with my mom were 2 things really. One of them was that we did not utilize all of our free time. Like she went on some trips with me. I travel a lot, but she always wanted to go to see the redwoods in California. She always wanted to go see the redwoods. I mean, year after year after year after year. And there was really no reason for us not to go, but we didn't make it a priority. Like we just like, oh, that's not really important. But when she passed, it was like this feeling of regret. Like, why didn't we go there? Like that was the one thing that she asked us to kind of do, and we didn't go there. It didn't really make sense. So I want to just remind all of us, that these things that we need to take advantage of, our health, our wealth, our free time, like these things are real, right? These things are real. The other thing I want to remind you of is to be gentle with yourself. After my mom passed, she passed in July. In December, I traveled to Senegal. And in Senegal, I met a lady there who was wearing all black. And I asked somebody, like, why is she wearing all black? And they told me that her mother passed. And so she was going to be wearing all black, and she was in mourning for a full year. She was going to be in mourning for a full year, right? So I thought about that, and I was like, dang, we do not give ourselves time in the States. When we have someone pass, it's like you may get a couple of weeks, but then it's like, peace, like you better get back to work. You better get back to your norm. And when I saw her and I saw that whole notion of mourning for a year, I was like, wow, we really need to be more gentle with ourselves. So this grief thing is weird. It comes in waves. You're not going to really know how it's going to hit you. Some days you'll be cool, and the next day you'll be like, crying. So just allow it to come as it's going to come. Be gentle with yourself and take it day by day. So I love you all. I love you both. And inshallah, you all will get through this. May Allah put the angels around you as you adjust to your new life. Peace. Assalamu alaikum.
I'm Latif Ali. I want to send some love and light to Nafees and Yasmine. Anyone else who has lost a parent, I pray that you receive the comfort that only Allah can give when your mind is consumed with your loss, because I know it's real. I lost my father in 2018 when I was 9 months pregnant. It was the hardest thing I've ever experienced, and also it was very eye-opening. It was a literal representation of how Allah gives life and He can take it away. Mashallah. When I think of the 5 before 5 hadith, the part that resonates with me is taking benefit of your free time before you're preoccupied. Once we learned of my father's illness and his hesitation in seeking medical care, me and my sister, we kind of applied a little pressure to him to get him to move to Atlanta from California. And during this time, I was blessed to be able to work from home full time, and he lived with me prior to his transition. But what I realized is my father and I needed that time together. Allah allowed us to mend our relationship in whatever ways was necessary, and I was able to thank him for always being there for me. And he was able to tell me that he was proud of me. And surely Allah knows best what we need to hear, because that is what comforts me now, knowing that my father was proud of me and he actually verbalized that to me. So the advice that I can give for anyone who's lost a parent is to think of the time that you took advantage of when they were here and what they said to you that you needed to hear, and then that bring you comfort. Inshallah.
Assalamu alaikum and greetings of peace to between us and y'all listeners. I'm grateful to Allah, my big sister Yasmine, and my nephew Nafees for the opportunity to share about a sensitive and personal subject. I begin with the name of Allah, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer. I have truly kept this subject to myself for my own selfish reasons, but maybe it's time to share some of my journey, and I pray that it is of some benefit, inshallah, to you all, God willing. And so I dedicate this with love to my Ummi. My name is Shahida Sharif, and I'm the third daughter of Judith Sabrine Sharif, who was the first daughter of Miriam Sharif, my grandmother, who is still living and kicking at 95, who is also the daughter of Miss Eli. I feel like I joined an anonymous club that you only learn you belong to once you lose a parent. I lost my mom in the summer of 2011, and I remember everything vividly, from the time she received her diagnosis of stage 4 cancer up until her last breath. I was expecting my daughter, Saliha, at the time, and knew she had to touch her face and her spirit before she left us. I think all of my family, my father and my siblings, felt they had to give my mom some gift of themselves in that time. So in some way, we spent significant personal time with her. My brother got married, and I came to be with her after giving birth to my daughter so she could sing her spirit into her. What I understood in that time that was given to me was to give all of myself to those who I love and treasure. Do not hold back anything. It was hard for me to be away from my husband at that time, but I knew that she would leave us soon, and I only have one mother. So I packed up my little ones and I went to be with her. I'm grateful he was understanding. She did everything with excellence and a beautiful spirit, and that was her signature. She remembered birthdays, would send little gifts, cards to me and my family, and she would call to discuss a Quranic verse or something she read or learned to cook. She would share her recipe, and boy, could she cook. I carry a little of her spirit with me everywhere I go, and I would offer that there's a concept that there are a few things that someone leaves behind when they leave this earthly world and presence, and that is children who pray for them and knowledge that they left behind. And if you can think of like a musician or artist, how they have royalties that kind of, keep on going after they've left, it's like her royalties. And so when I offer something of her that she gave to me, it's like I'm increasing her and offering that gift to her in the life after this. So I would offer that to any good that your parent gave you, to give that to others, and of course keep a little joy for yourself, and know that this will increase them like a perpetual royalty that will ensure their benefit and build their kingdom in the next life. So keep building a kingdom for them in the hereafter. I would offer that, and keep their memory and their spirit alive with you. Just keep passing little trinkets of joy with everyone whom you meet, and that's also like offering a little bit of your parents to them. So this is my mom, Sister Judith. It was funny. I felt like the only person I was taller than. But I thank you all for listening, and thank you for the opportunity to share between us and y'all. I appreciate you all.
Assalamu alaikum. My name's Atiya Mujahid Ali. This is my dua for Nafees and Yasmine is I pray that Allah bring you your heart's peace and strength and comfort. I know that this is a really difficult time, but I encourage you to take one day at a time, to remember that you're not alone, that you have each other, you have your family, your community, and most of all, you have Allah. And so I would like to encourage you to do one thing, though, which is to honor the memory and the legacy of your father by doing something good. And so think about who he was and causes and missions that he sort of stood for. And maybe it's volunteering your time. Maybe it's making a donation. But do some act of good on his behalf. And I know that my mother, for example, really loved Dunkin' Donuts coffee and would take my brother and I to Dunkin' Donuts with her, and usually would get us the munchkins, which are the donut holes. And so, every year I bring in on behalf of my mother, I'll bring in munchkins for my coworkers at work, and I'll just set them out in the break room and make a little note to say enjoy, and it brings my colleagues so much joy and happiness. And I really feel like I pray that Allah blesses my mother, even though she has transitioned, for just that kind act that I'm doing on her behalf. So send prayers forth for your father. Do good acts of service. Those are things that you can still ways that you can still bless him, even though he's physically not here. When I reflect on the take 5 before 5, I think about what this sort of means to me is, the gifts that Allah has given us, and really how we use them, and how we use from our youth to our health to wealth to time, and our life, some of the greatest gifts that we give, so that we're given by our Creator. And so I think about my mother, and in particular, my mother was someone who really fought for the underdog. And she was someone who, spoke up for those who had mental illness, and spoke up for those who were disabled, and spoke up for those who were homeless. And so those people that society really deemed voiceless, she knew that their lives had meaning. And so she really dedicated her work and her life to fighting for them. And so one of the greatest gifts that she's given to me is the power of is a reflection upon the power of our legacy. And so how we use those gifts that God has given us in ways of being of service to one another, in ways of, and so, this has impacted me and how I relate to my family, to my children, how I love on them, how it's how I relate to my colleagues and my community, and also the love that I give to myself. So when I reflect on the 5 before 5, I encourage you to also reflect on your father's legacy and thinking about those wonderful gifts that he was given and how he used them. and then think about your life and think about how you can also impact others, how you can be an impact on your community, how you can be an impact on your families. Use that. And I think that I think if we all thought that way and aligned ourselves with that as part of our mission, that we will go on to lead very beautiful lives. So prayers again to you, Nafees and Yasmine, and know that you have people that you can call on, and more, even greater, you have Allah.